Today we are diving deep into the world of fintech. It is a world where money is not just money, it's data, it's innovation, and it's changing the way we live. Joining me is the brilliant Justice EZIEFULE, a software engineer who is making waves in the fintech scene. We are going to break down the complex stuff, talk about the latest trend, and uncover the secrets behind those slick apps and secure transactions. So whether you are a techie, a finance enthusiast, or just someone who is curious about the future of money, this episode is for you. So grab a pen and jotter, sit back and let's explore this exciting world of fintech together. My name is Abeokuta and you are watching ICT Today. Justice, glad to have you join us on this program today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Fintech is a fancy word that basically means using technology to make anything money related easier and faster. It can be considered as using a super smart app, manage your money, pay bills, or even invest. It's a kind of like having a personal financial assistant in your pocket. So let's begin. We all know about apps here and there, banking apps with seamless transaction capability, but kindly give us some of the coolest features in fintech and coolest fintech ideas you have seen or come across lately.
Thank you. Absolutely. So there are lots of exciting new ideas out there. One that I really love so much is called GigPay. So GigPay is a platform or a product for African freelancers and remote workers. It allows them to open virtual accounts, like virtual bank accounts in USD or Euros, etc. They have also introduced virtual cards for global transactions, making it like making cross-border payments seamless. And this is really exciting because way back in say 2018, 2017, before the advent of all these platforms, it was very difficult for Nigerian freelancers to receive money from say Upwork or Fiverr. So GigPay is like a game changer, and they have added investment opportunities as well. So letting users buy fractional shares in global companies like Tesla and Apple, etc. And there's also Mono. Mono focuses on open banking. They are helping businesses securely access financial data to create more personalized services. So these platforms are quite exciting, and they are really doing like a good job on the fintech ecosystem.
Okay, I want to talk to you like a layman on the streets right now with little or no understanding of fintech. You might have come across a sect of people who believe fintech is risky, or some others may say it is not secure. Assumptions of majority is that fintech will replace traditional banking. Can you please state the biggest assumption or myth about fintech that you would like to clear up?
Yeah, sure. So I'll pick my points from some of the things you mentioned. So one of the biggest myths about fintech is that it's easier to replace traditional banks. That is not true at all. Fintech isn't about taking over, it's about working alongside banks to fill gaps and make financial services more efficient and accessible. For example, fintech companies often focus on undeserved areas, offering solutions like faster payments, microloans, or seamless cross-border transactions, where traditional banks have struggled, right? They have struggled a lot in that area. Another common assumption is that fintech is insecure. I'm not sure where that assumption came from, but the truth is, fintech companies invest heavily in security, right? They use encryption, multi-factor authentication, fraud detection systems, and very strict compliance with financial regulations, right? In fact, in some cases, they can be even more transparent and proactive about protecting users than traditional banks. I mean, in some cases. And finally, some people think fintech is inherently risky. I mean, sure, there's always some elements of risk in any financial product, but fintech thrives on innovation and user-centric design, right? So many platforms empower users with better tools to track their money, manage budgets, or make smarter investment decisions, right? So rather than being risky, fintech often helps people make more informed financial choices. So I would say all these myths are nothing more than myths. Yeah, so they are untrue.
Okay, that is well noted. Now, I want us to go deeper. I want us to dive a bit technical now. We are going to do the technical talking now, right now. So, when it comes to money matter, security is among our priorities. So, as a software engineer, can you walk us through how you would build a super secure payment system using tiny independent services?
When building a super secure payment system with independent tiny services, the key is to focus on security, right? That's the most important thing. And here's like the approaches I would use. There are plenty of approaches actually, but I will try my best to break it down into like maybe 5. So the first one is microservices architecture. So you need to break the system into independent services. So you would have authentication service, transaction service, fraud detection, notification, etc. So the goal is to make each of these services operate in isolation, reducing the impact of any potential breach. So what this means is if there is a breach in our notification service, for instance, say the notification service was hacked or is currently down or whatever, it doesn't affect the rest of the system. So the transaction service will continue processing transactions and the fraud detection service will continue detecting frauds, right? So everything still works as they are supposed to. My second point would be strong authentication and access control. So we need to implement multi-factor authentication for users and token-based authentication for service-to-service communication. So what this means is for an individual user to have access to the platform, you will need to, and after the usual username and password, you probably need to do your biometrics, so either your Face ID or your fingerprint or whatnot. So that's when we are entirely sure the user is the one accessing their details. The next one is like service-to-service communication. So all these services we need to communicate with each other. Example, when the fraud detection service detects a fraud, it needs to communicate to the transaction service not to process a specific transaction from a specific somebody, right? But in order to do that, the transaction service, we need to make sure that this information is actually coming from the fraud detection service and not like an outside alien, right? And in order to do that, we need to also implement access control for service communications. My third point would be encryption and tokenization. So we need to encrypt all communications, literally everything using TLS and secure data encryption. So we need to like replace every sensitive information like card numbers, like mother's maiden name, or like place of birth, all those kind of stuff. We have to replace them with tokens or like encrypt them. That way, even if our system is breached or the system is hacked or whatever, and a normal user wouldn't be able to read those information. It will be totally worthless to them. My fourth point would be fraud detection as a core service. So you have to use a dedicated fraud detection service powered by machine learning to monitor transactions in real time, because this needs to be real time, flagging unusual or suspicious behavior. So the last point I would say would be monitoring, redundancy and monitoring. So we have to ensure critical services have backups and follow-over systems for uninterrupted functionality. So we need to implement centralized login and monitoring with real-time alerts to detect and respond to issues very quickly, right? Very, very quickly. So this probably sounded a lot technical to our users, but yeah, that's that's the steps I would use. Thank you.
In your response to my last question, key microservices like user services, transaction services, payment services, and payment gateway services, and many more were mentioned. My question, and I believe that our viewers would also be concerned about, how do you make sure a fintech app can handle these services and a ton of transactions without breaking? I mean, considering all the layers to be covered, the nitty-gritty, and considering the amount of services, amount of transactions that might come in at a time.
That's a great question, actually. So, to ensure a fintech app can handle these key services and a very high volume of transactions without breaking, we need to start with scalable architecture. So, whatever architecture we come up with, I mean, each person can come up with any architecture they want, but we need to make sure it is scalable. So how do we make it scalable? By designing the app using microservices, like I mentioned in my previous answer. So each of these services, like the user service, the transaction, payment, and so on, can scale independently based on demands. So one doesn't bottleneck the entire system. And a quick example of this is, I would imagine the payment service or the transaction service would be called a lot more frequently than any other service, basically. So there will be lots of traffic on that particular service, and we need to be able to scale it independently without having to also scale the others. The next thing I would do is to implement load balancing to distribute traffic across multiple servers. So this ensures that apps remain responsive even during peak times. Right? For high performance data assets, we use caching tools like Redis to handle frequent queries and reduce database loads. Lastly, for real-time transaction processing, was like that's the key thing, right? You are not a fintech app if you don't process transactions in real time. But in order to achieve this, we need to implement event-driven systems like Kafka, for instance. So systems like this allow services to handle thousands of events per second efficiently.
Okay, I believe we are more rest assured that no matter how complicated the calculation or data is, fintech apps would handle it. And I want to say thank you for that briefing and detailed analysis. At this junction, I want to paint a scenario. Many of us have one or more relatives in diaspora, and you will agree with me that internet speed is faster in some areas compared to others. So let us say you are building a digital wallet for a country with spotty internet connection. How would you design it to work on all kinds of phones, even with the connection or where the connection is weak? You get to some area, you have fast internet, you have 5G, you get to some area, the only thing that you can get is edge, even 3G or 4G. So how do you juggle, or how do you design the app such that it would work seamlessly at both ends?
Yeah, that's very interesting. So to build a digital wallet for a country like ours with spotty internet, I'd focus on accessibility and offline functionality. So what does this mean? For feature phones, like in our old mama phones, so I implement USSD, allowing transactions through simple shortcodes without requiring any form of internet at all. For smartphones, like most of us have, the app will be lightweight and optimized for low data usage, working even on 2G networks. I'd also include local caching to store recent transactions offline. So that means when you open your app, and even if you don't have data or whatever, you'll be able to see your recent transactions. And once you regain your internet connectivity, I will automatically sync those transactions, so that everything will be in sync. An SMS fallback system would enable key actions like sending money or checking balances without internet at all. Finally, partnering with telecom providers to prioritize network traffic ensures that wallet remains functional even in low connectivity areas. So all this can be done, like it can be done quite smoothly and efficiently.
Okay, here is another scenario. Let's say Bank A has branches in Asia, Europe, Africa, and America with an existing fintech setup. But now they want to use a new AI tool to assess risk bank-wide. I mean, they want to use a new AI tool to assess risk bank-wide. How would you add it to this existing fintech setup? And I want you to explain if could anything go wrong with an existing setup and with a new AI tool?
Uh, yes, I would say a few things could go wrong, but that's when we don't implement the strategies properly. So I will start to integrate this new AI tool. I would start by building a microservice that connects seamlessly with the bank's current infrastructure. So this AI tool would ingest data from all branches using APIs to pull standardized data for like consistency. Um, so this tool would then analyze risks across regions, factoring in local regulations and economic conditions, and providing real-time insights to decision making. So a tiny example would be the economic condition in Nigeria is very different from the one in the UK, for instance. So we would have to factor all those things in. However, challenges could actually arise, like I pointed out earlier. Inconsistent data quality between regions could affect accuracy. So a robust data cleansing process really needs to happen, and this is very essential. There's also the risk of over-reliance on AI, which is a major problem. So we need human oversight. This is very critical to verify decisions. And lastly, I would say compliance with diverse regulatory requirements must be addressed to avoid legal issues. So when all these are done properly, I think we would have a very smooth integration with no issues at all.
How do you juggle and multitask when you are working on a fintech project with deadlines considering the sensitivity and numerous tasks to be executed before delivery? And has there been a time when you had to explain a complicated technical idea to someone who did not know much or have a knowledge of what tech is all about? Please.
So when working on a fintech project with a tight deadline, I would prioritize tasks based on urgency and impact. So I break the project into smaller milestones and tackle the most critical, right? So I would say I first tackle security and compliance if I feel like they are the most critical. So I also use tools like task trackers and maintain a very clear communication with the team to ensure everyone stays aligned. Delegation is really key, is extremely key, right? So no one person can do it all. So I trust my team to handle their parts. That's why, we need to have a very good communication. But most importantly, I stay focused by blocking out distractions and carrying out like specific time for deep work. So I would say between the hours of 9 to 12, I wouldn't receive any calls and I wouldn't attend any meetings. I'll just focus on this particular work and get everything done. Yeah, absolutely. So I once had this gig some years back with a Mexican entrepreneur. And I had to explain API integrations to them. Then they were non-technical at all. They looked at me like I was speaking, I don't know, a language they have never heard before. So I said this, think of your app as a restaurant, right? And APIs as delivery drivers. So your app takes an order, but instead of making the food, it sends a request to another kitchen, like payments or shipping services and so on. So they prepare the order and send it back to you to serve. The client posts and said, so APIs are like Uber Eats for apps. And I just couldn't help but smile. And I said, exactly. From then on, anytime we discuss integrations, they'll say, call the Uber Eats guy. And you know, those kind, it was a very funny experience. But I would still say, even till now, they probably still don't understand what APIs actually is. Yeah.
Right now, we are about rounding off, but before we go, let us quickly touch the legal aspect of fintech. What are the biggest legal hurdles fintech companies face today, and how can we overcome them?
Uh, wow, that's a deep word. So I would say fintech in Nigeria is incredibly dynamic. So each one faces their own different problems. But I would say one of the biggest challenges they face is regulatory uncertainty. So the industry is moving fast, way faster than regulations can sometimes adapt. So navigating that gray area can be quite tough, especially for emerging technologies like blockchain or cross-border payments. Another hurdle is the high cost and complexity of licensing, which can stay for smaller startups. I experienced this when I was helping build a startup called Laserpay. It was a very tough process to get these licenses and stuff because each one cost millions of naira. And I would say tiered licensing approach could help here, making it easier for smaller players to innovate. There's also the issue of trust. We all know that data privacy and cybersecurity are two non-negotiables. But compliance with regulatory bodies like the NDPR can be quite overwhelming for some businesses. And at the heart of it all, I would say these challenges are opportunities basically. So with better collaboration between fintechs, regulators, and other stakeholders, we can create a system that doesn't just encourage innovation, but also drives real financial inclusion for Nigerians.
Justice, I would like to say thank you very much for coming on the show, and I hope next time we have another discussion in fintech, you will honor us.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. I really enjoyed our conversation. And also, I want to really encourage aspiring software engineers to always look up-to-date information on everything happening in the field, especially in the realms of fintech, because that's like the booming industry in Nigeria right now.
Well, that is a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something about the innovative world of fintech. Remember, while money cannot buy happiness, it can certainly make life easier. So until next time, please stay safe, keep your wallet secure, and let us continue to innovate and shape the future of finance together. You can join us on our social platforms by subscribing and clicking the bell icon to receive notifications when we are live or post new updates. Until next time, remember, if it is digital, it is part of ICT.